Hey guys, and welcome to the Game of Death podcast. This is episode 196. I'm your host Chris. With me tonight we have. Hey guys, and welcome to the Game of Death
What's
podcast.
up, guys?
This is episode one. I gotta redo that because it replayed the. I forgot to mute my my video preview on Twitch.
Oh dear.
Sorry. At least I caught it now and early.
It's true.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 196 of the Game of Death podcast. I'm your host Chris. With me tonight we have Caleb.
What's going on, guys?
No hollow blade.
No.
Our
blades are filled.
Our blades are filled. For anybody that's in the chat, sorry it's not Thursday. Just lots of shit been going on lately, and Hollow wouldn't have been here yesterday either, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's true. We wouldn't have had Hollow anyway, so this is fine.
But I'm glad it gave you a whole day to play Nioh mostly.
To eventually play Nioh? Yeah, I'm glad it gave me a day too.
Because that was one of the big things I wanted to talk about. Because last week when we did the podcast, I had just picked it up, and I really hadn't had a chance to play it. But since then, that's all I've been doing, really.
Sounds like it's just been Nioh for days.
And I really wanted to talk about it. And for you guys out there in Listenerland, we have a group chat between me, Caleb, and Hollowblade. We're constantly talking to each other throughout the day. And I've been pushing for Caleb to pick this game up. Like, pushing really, really hard for Caleb to pick up this game, because Caleb's the one that got me into, like, the Souls games. And I'm really, really into Nioh. like hard.
So into Nioh. So hard.
Really into Nioh. Alright, so let me hear. How far into the game are you?
So I'm not super far. I'm still in the first area. Not the tutorial. I'm in the first area of Japan. I made it to Japan. I'm running around the village killing people.
Okay.
But I've been playing for about an hour and a half or so. So okay. I've gotten a good sense of it.
Yeah, it takes you about 2 hours to get to like the mission select screen and see what the game's really all about and what it's doing. And now that you're in Japan, now I can say that because I kind of didn't wanna like spoil that for you. Like, I would talk to you about builds and stuff and how the weapons work, because if you go in blind and you have no idea what's what, and you just have the tutorial to go on, there's a lot of weapons that you're just like, oh, this weapon's really bad. Why would I ever wield this?
Yeah.
So what weapons did you choose?
So I chose the short swords I chose the twin swords and the axe.
Okay.
The crazy chain things looked interesting. That was the Kirigasimi. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Yeah, it means chain sickle in Japanese.
Okay, the chain sickles. The chain sickles looked interesting, but I haven't actually tried them yet. I mean, I haven't put anything into my stat that I think it's strength that manages your axe power.
Yep, that's true.
I've just started, and I've only gained like 3 or 4 levels, and I'm starting by shoving everything into skill right away, so I can cut the shit out of everything with these swords, because these are pretty sweet.
Yeah,
and
they're really sweet.
I really like the stances and the movesets that it has. So yeah, that's about how much I played so far.
See, I went with dual swords as well. That was my secondary weapon. My main weapon was my spear, and I really liked the short swords. And I used mostly the short swords in mid stance for like the first 7 hours of the game, and didn't really use the spear much. And then as I got further and further into the game, and the enemies started having more and more health, the dual swords just don't do enough damage.
They're fun for stun locking, but when you have people that have super high health, yeah, it's just it just takes forever, to the point where it's not necessarily worth it to just keep going.
So it was a problem that I ran into like I said, probably about 6 hours into the game where I was like, okay, I need something to deal more damage. And that's when I found the spear's high stance, and that's you watched me play. That's what I use most of the time.
Yeah, it looked like it. It looked like you brought the sword's head only every so often, but mostly we're just stabbing things with your big spear.
Right, and it's just because this with Nioh, it's like Bloodborne, where the further you are from your opponent, the safer you are, because when you're up in their face, everything's super deadly.
Yeah.
So the spear gives you that reach, because high stance takes the longest to swing, but once you get the distance down and you memorize enemy patterns, it's very easy to just be like, okay, well, he's gonna come in now, and then you're gonna use your spear. But you can't I get into a rut and I die a lot because I'm so used to using the spear on like the trash. The enemies are usually super fast. The bosses.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I get into the rut of just constantly using the spear, and then I continue trying to do like my same attack pattern against bosses, and you can't. So I have to switch over to like the short swords and slice and dice, and boss battles take forever.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I'm having fun with the swords. I've played around with the axe a little bit. I like what it offers. I'm just trying to grapple with exactly how I would best use it in what situations. Whereas with the swords, it's pretty simple and pretty easy to grasp pretty quickly, especially if you just want to go low stance and just kick the shit out of their stamina and then destroy them with the high stance. Stances are really cool. Stances is a really cool concept. You can do a lot with it. But yeah, so the axe, I like it. I'm just trying to understand it at this point. So I'm not using it too much, but I do like to pull it out to just hack things off.
Yeah, that's a lot of the times when I'm using my short swords, it's either for an enemy that's got like super low health, is super fast, or if I just want to destroy stamina, because the dual swords are just so good at eating away stamina.
Yeah, I'm getting that. I'm fighting my first demon right now. He is not as hard as I thought he would be. Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna go on a little mini rant here and just explain my take on Nioh so far. After playing for about 2 hours, I very much like the game. It's pretty great. I think the most telling thing I could say about it, all right off the bat, is that it's a Souls game for people that don't like Souls, and that's honestly the biggest compliment I could give it. Actually, it has things in it. It has a lot of additions to the gameplay and to the mechanics and everything that I really wish the Souls games would have. It doesn't have certain things that I like about the Souls games, like the story is, it's a story. That's literally all I could say about it. Like, it's there. It's fine, I guess.
I warned you. I warned you that the story was pretty shitty.
There's not like lore or anything. It's more about the game mechanics, which is fine. Because everything that they add to it, like the ideas in this game are just like exploding out of the top, which is amazing. Because they basically just took how you play Souls and came up with like 20 or 30 different concepts of like, why can't you just have this in the Souls game, and then just tack them on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So there's only the 5 weapon types, but at the same time there's like multiple stances for each. There's 3 stances for each weapon. There's slow, medium, and fast, which you can use. I mean, literally every single stance is viable in any battle. It's just some are better for battles than certain battles than others. But you can, if you really just want to stance it in a certain stance all day, you can do that.
Not when you get later on.
Maybe not. But so far it seems like it. It's just a question of how much you want to sit and stab that guy for 10 minutes. But I really like everything it adds. I like the stances. I like how easy it is to get into. It explains things a lot better, although I will say the tutorial was a bit much. I wish they would have just told you all those things while you were in the dungeon at the beginning. Like the very first level, which is a huge throwback to Souls, obviously. Dark Souls 1, when you start in the dungeon.
Yep.
but that, yeah, I mean, I'm still understanding changes here and there, but like being able to fight people that have died is really cool. Um, Knowing right away what what stats work best with what weapons is really cool. It guides you in a way that is helpful but not overbearing, so that it is still a very difficult game. It is not a kid's version of Souls. It is still very much Souls, but at the same time, it's just more user friendly right off the bat, which is kind of fun.
See, I don't like the term, because I've seen a lot of people say that it's more user friendly, and I don't like that, because it does make it sound like it's like a kid's version of Dark Souls, and it's not. It's actually harder than Bloodborne is. I like to say that it's a little bit more intuitive.
I guess that's a better way to put it. I mean, yeah, and that's fair. I don't mean to like disparage it when I say user friendly. I just mean it is intuitive. It's easier to jump into right away and start playing, even if it is still very hard. It does not hold your hand as far as difficulty. I'll say that much, definitely. But it's still a great game, and it still does a lot of things right that the Souls games did. Even if there are some things missing, like I said, the story and whatnot, and some other parts of it aren't as fun as I would think, but it's still, I mean, mechanically, it's incredibly sound, and I can understand why everybody's raving about this game already. And it looks like a lot of people are playing just from all the bodies I'm seeing everywhere as I'm running around, who I'm fighting every single one of, by the way, because that's just how I do it.
Yeah, you have to.
Gotta get that expo, man. Gotta do it. Gotta get
later
souls.
on in the game, you are forced to fight revenants. Revenants become enemies, basically, where you pass a body and it auto spawns the revenant. So if you've never fought a revenant before, you are fucked, because you don't fight them like regular enemies.
You definitely don't, and I picked it up pretty quickly. Not that they are, well, some of them are kind of difficult right now, but none of them are crazy difficult yet. They're the biggest challenge by far. Most of the rest of the people are just fine, which is good, because I remember I mentioned that I played the alpha demo about 8 months ago, maybe, when it dropped, and I liked it, but it was so unbearably hard, it was absurd. Like, they've changed the mechanics so much, it's amazing, but that was the alpha, so... But, like, just for example, everybody would kill you in 2 hits, literally everybody. It was the same level as like this first area of the island I'm on right now, but there were 2 to 3 times as many enemies. Every single one of your weapons and armor pieces broke over time, so you just had to keep getting new pieces. It was fun, but it was like it was still a mess. So the fact that they've come from that to this is pretty amazing in and of itself. But yeah, just really enjoying it right now. Just kicking the shit out of people, doing my thing, picking up the souls. The Souls intuition is kicking in, even if the controls are a little different and a little weird to get used to moving from them, but it's still really great, and I would recommend anybody who tried to get into Souls but just couldn't, and even people who like Souls in general, I would recommend at least trying this game.
Because
it is a
great Souls.
Yes, you did.
and I couldn't.
And he got to Sen's Fortress in the first game, which, as many fans will know, is meant to be just a noob smasher. If it's your first time through, it will destroy you, which is not fun for everybody, admittedly. So it's fair that Chris obviously stepped away at that point. But
I tried for like 2 weeks, and I would die at the very beginning of the 2 lizard guys at the beginning of Sen's Fortress.
Yeah.
Or I'd barely beat them, and then I'd start walking out, and then there's all those enemies shooting at you across the bridge, and the guillotines that are, swiping across the bridge, and I would just get my ass handed to me. And I was just like, I couldn't just keep throwing the mashed potatoes against the wall.
Yeah, that's fair. That is legitimately fair.
Dark Souls 2, I got up to like the 3rd or 4th boss. I didn't like that game, though. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Dark Souls 2 is the best one," and I just...
Do a lot of people say that? Not that it's a bad game. I just thought that was like the odd one out from the group, just from people I've talked to. I love it, but I don't know if a lot of people do.
Dark Souls 3, I got to like the middle of that game.
How far? Yeah, how far did you get into Dark Souls 3? I didn't even know until recently, like the past couple weeks, that you'd actually just quit halfway through.
Yeah, I was about
Um,
halfway through that game. I can't even remember where I was in that game. It because I only played it for like the first 3 weeks, and then I was like, I'm not having fun. I got to a part
okay.
where I was correctly leveled but under geared.
Was it too? Oh, okay. Was it too hard, or was it just not fun?
Um,
Maybe both.
I was coming off of Bloodborne high. I wanted more Bloodborne, and I was hoping Dark Souls 3 was going to be more Bloodborne. And I tried for 3 weeks to convince myself that it was more Bloodborne. But as much as people say, "Oh, Dark Souls 3 is much more like Bloodborne," yes, but it's not Bloodborne.
It's very much not Bloodborne. And I experienced that in the opposite way, going back to Bloodborne from all the Dark Souls games after playing them for like 2 months and starting a bunch of new characters. It is not necessarily, I'm not going to say user friendly, but it is a more intuitive and more welcoming form of the Bloodborne games while still being very much those games.
What are we talking about?
Bloodborne.
Okay.
Yeah, it itself is more intuitive just because Dark Souls, it has there's a lot of great things in Dark Souls as far as customization of your character and all that. But because of that, it throws a lot at you all at once, and you might not know what you're doing. So most people's first characters are like total garbage, and they like barely get their way through, and which isn't necessarily fun for everybody. Whereas Bloodborne was like, yeah, just put your points into whatever, it's probably fine. There's not a ton of variability, but at the same time, it's still a fun game. That kind of thing, and that's a fair route for some people who want to play that more. As opposed to trying to figure out Dark Souls' completely opaque mechanics from the get-go. It takes some time.
That's the one thing that bothered me the most is like I like the gameplay. I like the fast kind of like aggressive gameplay of Bloodborne. I think that's why I like Bloodborne more is it's less like slogging with your shield up constantly and more okay, you go and you kind of learn the enemy pattern and you fight. It's more like it's like a one-on-one fighting game most of the time when you're fighting enemies. It's the same thing I'm going to say about Nioh is it feels very much like a one-on-one fighting game most of the time when you're like dodging and you learning enemy patterns and you're trying to get stuff down.
Yeah.
Whereas Dark Souls it's very much shield up and you move so slowly through that game that I have a problem with that. I don't want to spend 10 minutes walking across the bridge. I don't want to spend 3 hours, navigating fucking Blighttown again. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, and you can get to the point where Dark Souls is like that, where you're like flying through and you know everything, and you're a monster, and you don't have a shield, and you just tear things apart. I've seen people play like that, but it takes a lot longer to get there in Dark Souls than Bloodborne, where that's kind of like the expected way to play. It's not necessarily, you can play the game like that, but it is very much a privilege to be able to play like that. That takes a lot of time, as opposed to Bloodborne, which is like, yeah, jump right in and start killing shit. So, yeah.
Right, but both. What I was trying to say is, like, both games, both Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you need to be smart. You need and Nioh, you need to be smart when tackling enemies. Like, Bloodborne is clearly the easiest out of all 4 games that we're talking about, or 5 games.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Actually,
and I'm glad that was the game. Like, I played that before I played Dark Souls 1. I played that before I played Demon Souls, and I played Bloodborne before I played anything else. And I was really happy that I got to play Bloodborne before any of those other games, because I kind of got to learn kind of watered down of the mechanics for the Dark Souls games. My biggest gripe with Bloodborne is there's not very much customization you can do.
yeah.
It's kind of like these 3 weapons work well with these 3 weapons, and you choose one of those and you go at it. And it's like you do the same attack over and over, and you switch your style, which doesn't really do much in terms of, for most weapons. Like, there's some weapons that it's really cool, and you change style all the time. But Bloodborne, I just felt like there wasn't enough to make my character feel unique. Whereas even in Dark Souls 1, I was getting my ass handed to me, but I felt like my character was different than anybody else's character out there. And I like that. That's like Nioh. I feel like my character is different than anybody else's character out there. Like, I'm using dual swords and spears, and I'm wearing heavy ass armor, and I throw shurikens, and I dodge around everywhere. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You look at my character build, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it works for me, and I like it. And I don't know. I really like Nioh, and I wish that I could have gotten into the Souls games. And you said it perfectly. Nioh is the game for people that wanted to get into Souls or tried to get into Souls and couldn't.
Yeah, and it has a lot of. When I mentioned that it's like the Souls game with a lot of mechanics tacked on, I forgot what I was saying halfway through that sentence because I'm playing Nioh. I'm going to put the controller down for a second. Yeah, and when I mentioned that, like, it has a lot of things tacked on that basically they took the Dark Souls formula and just made it more intuitive. Like, that's why I think it's so good of a game, and that's why it's why I would recommend it for anyone who wasn't super fond of how Souls did certain things. It's a very smart way of just improving upon the formula, even if certain aspects of the game that I might prefer to be more up to par aren't. And that's mostly just the story, honestly. But everything else, it's a super solid improvement, and it makes me very glad that the Souls games were as popular as they were, as difficult as they were, because it shows that in and of itself is basically like, it is genre worthy. It is worthy of becoming its own genre, which is kind of what I'm seeing just in playing Nioh. And it's fun that even if Dark Souls isn't going to continue, which it seems to be winding down at this point, even if that's not going to continue, it's fun that other people can make similar games and not only make them good, but make them in a way that is more welcoming to others who might not have enjoyed Dark Souls. It's really cool what they've done, and it's pretty amazing that they've been able to do it in the first place and take what was successful. And that's kind of what I hear when I hear you talking about the game and how it works and everything. It's like, yeah, it's just Dark Souls in a way that's easy to jump into, but still with a lot of the uniqueness of characters and just interesting mechanics and the crushing difficulty. It's cool, and it's something that everybody take the time to check out.
See that's where I'll disagree with you. I don't think everybody should check out Nioh. I really don't.
Okay.
It's not for like, my wife is a gamer. My wife likes to play games. I would not hand my controller off to my wife for Nioh.
Okay.
Like, it's not the kind of game that everybody will like. It's like you said, it's this Dark Soul, crushingly difficult, Japanese kind of archaic like game is kind of becoming its own genre, and I don't think it's a genre for everybody.
Maybe not.
The one thing that I want to talk about with Nioh that's different than Souls, that I find to be my favorite part of it, is the loot.
Yeah, the Borderlands Diablo style loot system is a very different take on things.
Like, I know, like in Dark Souls and all the Souls games and Bloodborne, like there's one version of this weapon, and there's one version of that weapon, and there's one version of this weapon, and there's one set of that helmet, and one thing of that helmet, and one thing of that helmet, and it's all placed specifically in areas, and you track it down, you grab it, and then you go. Whereas in Nioh, it's Diablo Borderlands, where like sometimes you kill something and like 12 items come out, and you're like, oh cool, look, a new sword, or oh, these badass boots, and it causes you to kind of compare and contrast what you're wearing to be successful a lot more than Dark Souls does, and I think that just adds to the customization of characters.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, definitely.
I really like the fact that there's loot. I like that there's fact that, like in Diablo, you can re-roll like the abilities that are on the pieces of loot. I also like the fact that if you find a really badass sword that's level 30 and you're level 80, you can go and take a level 80 of a different item and kind of feed it to the lower level item to make it level 80.
Oh, I have not experienced that yet.
That's
Probably because
because
I'm still in the first area.
you're
But
okay. With Nioh, you start out in the prison, which I don't consider
yeah,
which I don't consider tutorial. I really hated the prison section. I thought it would have been a much better area as a cutscene rather
yeah,
than playing through it.
yeah. I sort of agree. I would. That's why I was saying. I mean, I really liked that they'd starts in the prison, which is obviously meant to be a throwback to Dark Souls One, but at the same time, it doesn't really teach you much. In the sense that yeah, this game is hard, but then it does it for like 20 minutes, and then it's like, okay, here's your tutorial mission. Like after that, which is kind of grating, but that's one of my only real problems with the game so far.
Right, because then you get the choice if you want to do the dojo tutorial when you get to Japan. They're
Yeah,
like,
which I did. I did it anyway, just to be sure I knew what I was doing.
you should.
Because that's what I'm saying. Like, it started showing when it was showing me all the stuff in the tutorial. I was like, why didn't they just do this earlier? Like, I actually really wanted to do those kinds of things when I was running around the prison.
Right, because when you're in the prison, you don't have access to your stances.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have quick
and
item
and that's what I'm
slots.
saying. I'm saying they should have just kind of thrown it at you and let you have fun. It would have been maybe it would have been a little more challenging to pick up, but at the same time, it's just like it just now the prison feels unnecessary.
Right. But what I was saying was you do like that weird prison mission, then if you want, you do the tutorial. And
Yeah.
then you do kind of like the first, like, hey, welcome to Nioh, here's the deep end.
Yeah.
And they literally drop you off on a beach. And they're
Yeah.
like, go do your thing now.
Yep. Figure it out.
And once you beat that mission, you get access to the overworld, basically. Because unlike Dark Souls or Demon Souls, you have a mission select screen, which is like a giant map. If you've played like any of the Dynasty Warriors like Empire games, it's kind of like that, where there's different points on the map and you can choose what mission you go to. And there's also something called the starting area, which is where your blacksmith is on the main map, your shrine, the dojo, the storehouse, later on the tea room.
It's just so amusing that it took Dark Souls and Bloodborne like 3 to 4 entries to get that figured out from the get-go in Dark Souls 3, and Nioh just obviously has it right from the start because of course it does.
Of course it does. Tecmo Koei, which is the team that is behind Nioh, along with Team Ninja, they did a really, really good job of aping stuff from Dark Souls.
Yeah, and at the same time, as you've been mentioning, because of all the nice little additions and changes, it doesn't feel aped just because they added so much. Like, even being able to teleport from the beginning, even like when I jumped into the level up screen at the shrine, which is basically a bonfire, and it gave me the option of pressing, just literally clicking R3 in and out if I wanted to go online or offline. Like, even that's kind of fucking incredible, considering it took this long to get to that point for a Soul-style game, as
Right.
opposed to them making you play online and shit like that, like the other games did. Just little tiny quality of life improvements that are everywhere and just really make the difference in making this what could have been in just like an aped version, but is very much its own thing.
The best way that I compare Nioh to like Dark Souls is the same way that I compare like Darksiders to Zelda,
Okay, I can see that.
where they do things differently, but there's a lot of shared elements that both games use. There's certain aspects of Zelda that Zelda uses better, and there's certain things that Darksiders do better. And it doesn't make one game feel like a ripoff of the other game. They're both unique, and they're both really good games. And that's kind of the way that I would compare Nioh and the Souls games. Have you found how do you like searching for Kodama everywhere so that you get more Estus flasks?
Is that what they do? I didn't realize that at first, actually.
Yeah, as
I found a few of them, but I thought they just I saw that they seem to boost like stats and things, which is cool. Little passive buffs. I didn't realize you could also use them to increase your Estus. I should look at that more fully after I'm done killing.
yeah, as you find, there's these little green guys. There's 8 in every level, about 8 to 9 in every area of the game. Not every. There's 6 main areas, but every area has like mini areas, and each little mini area has about 8 to 9 of them. And I think it's for every 2 you get an extra elixir, which is the Estus Flask of Nioh. It also allows you to pay money to get one of their prayers. So that's
Okay.
neato. The thing that I don't like about it is every time you go to a new area, like when you leave the first starting area, and you go to after you beat like all the bosses in the first area, and you go to the second area, it resets and you only start with 3 again because you have to find Kodama again.
Oh, I did not realize that. That well, obviously because I have not there yet, but that's a little frustrating. But I'll deal with that when I get there, I guess. Huh.
Yeah, I will tell you right now, having an accessory, even if it's a low-level accessory with Kodama Sense, is really nice, especially when you're like farming souls in past levels, so that you can find the little Kodamas that you missed.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
But
Good to know.
we'll talk more about Nioh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we will. We will be talking a lot for the next few days, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm up to, I think I'm level 80 or just below 80 right now. My next main mission is level 92, so I have to go do some farming.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it's the one thing that I don't like about Nioh is they give you a mission structure, and you can follow the mission structure very well. Like each mission normally like gives you enough souls to level up to the next mission. If you die and lose all your souls at some point, though, you get set back quite a bit, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"Fuck." And then you're stuck where something like I'm in, where I'm like, I've done all the side missions and I've done all the main missions except for that one. I guess I gotta go play other missions.
Cool. Yeah, that's so that was the one funny thing that actually came up earlier today that was a little surprising, but I guess it makes sense for the game. I just so the Super Best Friends play, the guys who do LPs that I watch a lot of, as you guys probably know at this point. They've done playthroughs of all the Dark Souls games, which are pretty entertaining, even if you haven't played the games, just because they're mostly from the perspective of one of the guys who has never played them. So they're kind of funny in how bad he is, but at the same time, he figures it out. But they mentioned the other day that people were wondering why they're not going to do a Nioh playthrough, and that's because they mentioned that there's a lot of grinding in the game, which I would not have expected from this kind of game. But I guess that's just how it's set up, and it sounds like, yeah, from what you're saying, there is quite a bit of grinding when it comes to making sure you're the right level.
And that's the weird thing for me, because I haven't had to grind really up until this point. Like, I've always been, a few levels higher, like 3 to 4 levels higher than every mission I've gone into. And it started whatever night you watched me play. Wednesday night started me on my downward slope, where I was like, all right, now I'm 2 levels below. Now I'm 2 levels higher. Now I'm a level higher. Now I'm the same level. Now I'm a level and a half lower, and it's like, all right, what the fuck's going on here? And the good thing is, like, if you're a skilled player at Nioh, you're able to overcome that. 4 levels higher. If you're skilled and you know what the hell you're doing and you know your character build properly, then you can normally take the stuff down. The bosses are going to be hard as hell and probably kill you in 2 hits. But you can do it if you're smart. But I tried to go into the mission that's like 12 levels higher than me, and the trash, it kills me in 2 hits, and it's like I can't. I just can't do it. And it makes me a little sad, because I'm gonna play tonight when we're done podcasting, and I'm gonna go grind. That's what I'm doing. I took a nap. I took a nap after I ate a bunch of delicious Chinese food while watching Interview with the Vampire with my wife. So now I'll be up until 5 a.m. playing Nioh.
Nice. Nice. Sounds good.
Let's move on to something else. We've talked about Nioh for probably about an hour.
30, 40 minutes,
30
yeah.
minutes, yeah. You keep bringing up Pewdiepie in the chat. What the fuck's going on with Pewdiepie?
So, did you look up any of the stuff that's going on with Pewdiepie?
No.
No? Okay. So, it's not a huge deal, but it's just something that a lot of people have been going off about the past couple days. So, it started when the Wall Street Journal actually posted an article basically claiming that he wasn't they basically claimed he was anti-Semitic, or at least maybe he was, and he was pretending not to be, just because they pointed out that quite a few videos actually have some pretty bad off-color jokes, which I guess he's just known for in general. But it turned into a big thing where he was partnered with Google, which owns YouTube, and Disney for some kind of show they were showing on. They were broadcasting on their YouTube Premiere series that they're trying to get going, and apparently they just completely cut all ties with them, like these three companies, and just kind of left him in the dust to figure his shit out back on YouTube, which he'll be fine because, you know, he's PewDiePie and people still watch him. But now it's turning into this weird thing where a lot of people are upset at YouTube and they think it's this huge scapegoating of him, even though the jokes he was making were pretty bad. And so, and people are starting to take sides in kind of a weird political war. People have made a lot of references, drawn a lot of similarities between this and the whole Gamergate thing. So, I mean, which I honestly know very little about, just because of you and me not caring to get into it. I'm surprised I know so little about it, because apparently everybody had an opinion about Gamergate when it was happening. But so a lot of people are protecting him and saying he's not alt-right, but there's some ties you can maybe potentially draw, and like he's being defended by people from the alt-right for doing the things that he did. It's a weird mess, and I'm like still trying to understand the whole thing myself. But it's weirdly started to draw YouTube into the self-destructive political climate that we have in the U.S. and might threaten to bring the gaming community into it as well, because people are taking sides on this. It's just weird, and that's just where we are now. Everything's political, even PewDiePie.
As content creators, though, we make a lot of off-color jokes during our podcast.
We do make some pretty off-color jokes. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily an anti-Semite or that he's necessarily alt-right, but I think he made some jokes that maybe went a little too far, is the thing. Well, like one of the big ones is that he was doing this video where he was fucking around with Fiverr. Have you ever heard of Fiverr, that website?
Is that where you pay people money and they do shit for you?
You literally pay people $5 and they offer different services, which I've kind of played around on because people offer some pretty interesting stuff. I saw a guy on there who was offering like $5, and he's like some guy who is like really good at celebrity impersonations, like vocal impersonations, and you could pay him however, like $5 literally, and he'll literally just make a voicemail for your answering machine for your phone of whatever celebrity you want, which is kind of funny. But people will do like almost anything. So he paid like these Indian guys to stand on a street corner holding signs saying like "Kill all Jews," that's
kind of funny.
It is kind of funny, but it's pretty fucked up, and it's maybe a little too far. Especially just in keeping that a lot of his fans, not all of them, but a good amount of his fans are kids who might not understand the context of that joke, so it's just like questionable with some of the things he's doing.
Like I can understand with PewDiePie, because like a lot of his big fan base is children, like my brother's age. My brother, I think, watches PewDiePie.
Yeah,
you know, PewDiePie. He does that shit and brofist and shit, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, I personally think he's annoying, but that has little to do with the politics of But that's more just my
And I can
personal
understand that, but
PewDiePie.
my thing is he really like is he really getting shit for saying stuff though?
So that's the thing. So I mean,
It's
Disney and Google cut ties with him over that incident, which that's perfectly within their rights, I think. And given YouTube's kind of desire to not get pulled into politics, I can see why they would do that. It kind of did pull them into politics because of PewDiePie's response to it, but that seems like a fair thing that they would do. And now it's kind of getting blown out of proportion. He after that he posted a video that basically says "sorry, not sorry." It's a longer video. It's like 2 to 3 minutes.
that's a problem. That's the problem.
See,
We live in a very PC SJW culture right now, and I'm someone who's very against the PC SJW. Like I'm very much against words don't do anything. Words don't do shit, especially adults. Like adults that are like, your words hurt me. I think they're a bunch of pussies. Like kids, on the other hand, like you got to teach kids to be nice to people, but you also have to teach them that disagreeing with another person's thoughts or someone who says something isn't really hurting anybody. But at the same time, if somebody was like, listen, yo, that really, really was really fucked up and it really, really offended me, you apologize. That makes you a human being. You fucking apologize. You don't be a dick and are like, sorry, not sorry.
So that's kind of the thing, and people have some interesting takes on it because he actually spent like the first portion of his video apologizing and admitting that maybe some of his jokes went a bit too far, but then he goes on to make another potentially alt-right joke, and then right after that he goes off on this rant about how the media is waging a war against him and how he's at the same time he should be able to do whatever he wants. So it's weird. The whole thing is weird.
So is Felix like the YouTube Trump? Everybody's against me?
Yeah, people have drawn similarities, not because they're obviously in any way similar in like their politics, and I think PewDiePie is a lot more self-aware of his faults, but at the same time he's taking a very similar tact, which is a problem.
Or this is just the giant troll.
And some people might even be getting mad at me right now just because I have this particular take, but like I'm literally just trying to understand this myself, and that's kind of just what it looks like. I'm not saying he is Trump, but he's kind of being a little trolly.
But that's my thing. Like, PewDiePie is a content creator. He's a comedic content creator. On top of everything, he's not Ann Coulter. He's not Katie Couric. He's Felix from the Netherlands, I think.
He's Felix Kjelgaard or whatever. Yeah, I think it's the name.
This could all just be a giant fucking troll.
I really don't know. It sounds like he's had a lot of problems with YouTube recently over the past year because they've been changing a lot about how they manage their content creators, and he's been very outspoken about that. But it's so weird because instead of going against YouTube or Disney or any of them, he went against the media, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, it definitely seems like the video, like the article in the video that Wall Street Journal posted, definitely was definitely a bit of a character hit. It was definitely some mudslinging that maybe was a little unnecessary. That doesn't make what he said necessarily okay, but at the same time, like now that he's come out of it and he's obviously like he's starting to lead this weird populist group on YouTube against media, like against news media and all that, which is just a really weird shade to it, especially because Wall Street Journal did that, obviously, and like the journalists are kind of dicks for it, but like they didn't actually like get him fired. They literally went to Disney with their footage and were like, do you have any response to this? Like, what are your thoughts on one of your creators doing this? And they said no response, and then they cut ties with PewDiePie. So there's a lot of weird perspectives.
This dude makes like $7.6 million a year off of YouTube?
Yeah, he made $15 million last year. Like, it's insane.
$15 million for making videos for 12-year-olds.
He is the biggest star on YouTube, bar none. He is far and away the biggest.
What? And we can't even make 20,000 of a podcast we've been doing for 5 years.
I know. It's just how YouTube works. It's the best.
So wait, how do we become good YouTubes?
How do, how do we YouTubes, guys? Send your best tips and tricks to the email and tell us how to become the YouTubes so we can be cool too. Just type that into Google. Just type in how become YouTubes.
How become YouTubes? All right, hold on.
see
how become YouTubes.
So YouTube has this.
Enable ads on your older videos. Once logged into YouTube, navigate to your video manager, find the video you want to place ads in. Click the money icon next to your video. This will open the monetization tab. Check the monetize my video box. Select the ad format you want to have appear. Click save changes.
I was literally just about to say, all joking aside and try to explain how it works. But there you go. Literally, you can monetize your videos by showing advertisements on the sides, and it takes a lot of viewers to make any kind of money from it substantially. You need like 200,000 subscribers at least just to be making like not even half of what I make in a paycheck, maybe like 20 grand a year.
Hey, that's double what I make in a year.
Oh jeez. Well, maybe you should YouTubes. Maybe you should YouTubes.
See, that's the thing.
But he gets millions and millions of views per video, and has like a sum total of like several millions on all of them, which is why he makes as much as he does, and he's only growing more popular. If anything, the whole incident has actually bolstered his subscriber numbers on his main page.
All right, Caleb, that's it. I'm just gonna start doing video reviews for video games for YouTube, but I'm gonna wear a wife beater in my underpants.
Oh no! It's pretty late in the game to jump in, but you might have a chance.
So maybe I gotta find something that'll help me take off. Like that dude that sang All Star to all the other different songs. His ass took off like overnight.
That guy is pretty amazing. Even he's not getting a ton of subscribers though. He's got like maybe 30,000-40,000, which is like peanuts, honestly.
And then you have those people that are like, oh, look at my hydraulic press. Let's squish some shit. Or hey, let's heat up this knife and cut things in half. That's cool.
Yeah, using the what was it? I was watching the video where the hydraulic press is pretty cool, just because it's pretty entertaining.
Channel.
I like the dad and son who. Where the fuck did you come from? I like the dad and son who use their water axe to cut random shit in half just to see what it looks like inside. Yeah, they did to a Furby. It was fucking fantastic.
They did one of those. What was the fucking big Christmas toy for kids this year? The thing Hatchimal. Hatchimal. They did a
Hatchimals. They did one of the.
Yeah, it was funny.
Okay, I gotta check that out later. People have some really interesting ways of doing things. I mean, the Super Best Friends Play guys were just making their videos on the side for fun until they took off, and they don't make what PewDiePie makes, but they probably make about what I make, if not more, which is pretty substantial for Montreal and enough for them to literally have their own lives and families and wives and things, which is crazy, but that's just where we are.
Like, my big thing is I consume probably most of my media comes from YouTube these days. Like,
would agree with that as well. That's
like there's certain shows that I watch on Netflix. Like I watch the Santa Clarita Diet. Like a lot of like the original stuff on Netflix and YouTube. I watch that stuff. And Amazons and Hulus and all that stuff. But most of the time, like I come home and I'm on YouTube for 4 hours. And that's what I do. Like, there's certain people there's like certain subscribers that I watch every time they put out a video. And these are people that are creating content every single day. Like, I watch a lot of the old Ex Machinima guys, like Chilled Chaos and Sea Nanners and Nogla and there's. I can't remember his name. Mini Lad, those kind of guys that used to be partnered with Machinima. And I like their videos. I think those guys are really fucking funny. And I watch Kripparrian because I'm really into Hearthstone, and I think that watching a salty Canadian that isn't one of my best friends talk about a card game is interesting. It's kind of like watching Hollow do stuff. Uh, and then there's like weird videos I watch. Like I'm subscribed to the Hydraulic Press channel and the guys with the water cutter and the king. Have you ever heard of the King of Random?
No.
He does like weird, cool science experiments. Like he teaches you how to make thermite and how to make party poppers with nitrogen and mold stuff. It's really cool.
Poppers with nitrogen. Okay, I might have to check that out. I watch.
He's an ex-NASA scientist. It's cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I watch the Hydraulic Press. I used to watch the how it's made, or I used to watch the how to basic, where halfway through whatever the guy was doing, he would just fuck up and start throwing eggs and random bullshit all over the place.
Got annoying. I used to watch those too.
I like the two, but it went a little far. I watched Vatividia, who does all the lore videos for Dark Souls, who is fucking amazing.
Oh, I watch him too. You got me into him.
And I watched the British guy who does all the really funky science experiments, like based around like sci-fi and fantasy shit. Like he made the Wolverine claws. He made like a homemade flamethrower that was pretty gnarly. He does a lot of really interesting stuff, random stuff like that. Just YouTube is a TV service at this point with how much it has and the stuff that people make on it. It's amazing. It's pretty interesting.
What is the Two Best Friends YouTube channel? Is that the Switcher or is it Two Best Friends Play?
It's the Switcher.
Okay.
And their playthroughs of Dark Souls might be pretty cathartic for you. Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 are one of the guys playing who's really good at them, so he like he's even better than me. He just tears through, so that's kind of entertaining to see him just destroy it while they're making dumb jokes. And then Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 they're playing through right now, is one of the other guys named Wooly, who's just terrible, and it's fun seeing him like a very good gamer but who is not good at those kinds of games, like grapple with it and try to understand it. It's funny for a different reason. And I would recommend those for you just because of your obvious experience with the Dark Souls series. It might be good. But they do a lot of interesting playthroughs of games that I might not otherwise see or get to play. And I like their personalities and their commentary. It can be pretty crass, but I like their sense of humor.
Are they more crass than we are?
They can be. They don't go into that PewDiePie territory, but they can make some pretty interesting jokes. Well, I just remember at one point there was a joke about taking back blackface, and it was pretty fucked up. But at the same time, it was funny because one of the guys who was making the joke was one of their friends who's a black guy. So
so white privilege. So it's like, oh, it's cool because the black guy was there.
Well,
check your privilege.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it would have been very different if PewDiePie had paid someone. Well, he's a Swedish guy. It would have been very different if he'd paid someone to stand out on the corner with a sign that said "Kill all Swedes" because he's Swedish, as opposed to "Kill all Jews," which is a little more, iffy. But even so.
Okay, we did a drunk Let's Play of Borderlands 2. You are Mexican.
Yeah, I'm pretty Mexican.
My stepdad my stepdad, who basically has been in my life since I was 14, is Mexican. He's like, I have two dads. There were some off-color Mexican jokes that we had made during that commentary that I edited out because they were distasteful.
They were. I think I barely even remember at this point. I think we made comment. I think it's somehow we came up with a really terrible idea of how to solve racism, and I don't even remember the joke.
It had to do with burritos.
It had to do with burritos and maybe fried chicken. I don't know. It was really bad. But it was really bad. I'm glad you edited those out.
And I edited those out because the last thing I needed was. Like, a lot of times people will be like, bad press is better than no press. in a content creators world, especially like people like us who have actual jobs and actual lives outside of our content creation, no, that bad press would have been bad.
Yeah, it would have been pretty bad.
Like, I don't want to be the next chick that went to work as a Boston bombing victim. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
That's fair.
You know, I don't want to be the guy that's like, I don't want to be the next Twitter girl that was like, going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, ha ha ha, I won't,
Oh my
right,
God.
I forgot I'm white. I don't want to be that, I don't want to be that person. You know,
But
these are all people that tweeted jokes out to like, that the tweet lady tweeted that tweet out to, I think, like 103 people that she followed, and it blew up, and it destroyed her life.
Yeah, or like the people in, I think it was South Carolina, who were using they were using some kind of they were using some kind of facial cleanser, and they took a picture of themselves wearing it, and it happened to look a lot like blackface. And there happened to be like a Confederate flag in the background, and their lives are ruined now because of that tweet, which was totally an accident, but obviously does not look good. Yeah, it's a weird time.
Like, I do a face mask every week. I won't lie. I take care of my skin.
No, dude, you gotta take care of your skin. You gotta,
Like,
it's the new manly.
this milky help whore face mask thing is the best, by the way. It makes my face feel smooth for like 6 days.
We'll talk about that later. Let's share some techniques. It's our next podcast, guys.
But I've said from the beginning, the big place that's missing content creation on the internet is for geeky gamer guys to go to be like, this is how you adult and this is how you kind of take care of yourself. I've always felt that content creation was missing. Like, hey guys, like, I'm a fat video game dude who lives in my in-laws' house, but check this out. You want really awesome skin? This shit is the tits.
You know, in all honesty, there might be something to that. That's kind of the weird thing about being a guy these days is that a lot of us just grow up just expected to know how to be, which is weird. I don't know how it is for women because I'm not a woman, but I know for guys there's a lot of strain. It's an awkward time to be a guy. I'm not saying that guys have it worse than women. I'm just trying to be honest here, just because of things like that. So having that kind of channel might actually be useful.
Right. That was, you know, that I'm growing a beard.
Yeah, which is cool.
And let me tell you that as a man, who I've never grown a beard before, that it's really off-putting when you're like trying to grow a beard and you see all these like bald spots and shit in your face, and you have to like go online and search everywhere for people to be like, no, dude, it's normal. Don't worry about it.
Is it normal?
It is, because like the first 2 or 3 weeks, like the hair on your face grows at different speeds.
So I just need to grow my hair out for longer as opposed to getting it halfway and being like, this looks like shit.
Right, like my beard looked like shit. Up until like 2 weeks ago. And now I'm about to hit week 7, and I'll send you a picture in a little bit.
Right.
So you can see what I'm working with these days. But like, it's that kind of shit that I'm like, oh well, people, you need that stuff. Oh, my hair's kind of a mess. Don't mind my messy hair.
We could use that stuff. We could use how to adult videos. That would help a lot. Not how to adult videos. How to adult videos.
Right, like tutorials on how to adult.
No, not how to make porn.
Not how to make porn. There's tons of those out there.
That's less necessary. I feel like it's pretty full market. I don't know.
You know, it's just one of those things where it's like content creation on the internet, and I've been podcasting now for 2 years longer than the Gaming Death podcast has been around, and I got a throwback the other day. It was, I think, 5 years since like the first time I emailed you.
Oh wow.
Which was like, I was just kind of like, oh, hey, I posted on Twitter or Facebook. I was like, had a really awesome interview with a new writer from California. Seems like he's got his shit together. And it's like, that was 5 years ago. And it took you about like 4 months of being with Gaming Death before you started the podcast. Like, you first jumped on with our BioShock Infinite spoiler cast.
Yeah, I do remember that with God, I still remember that with Hollow and fucking Flipper. Piece of shit.
Hey, don't piece of shit. That guy's a good guy. I love Flip to death. I barely get to talk to him anymore. Like, there's a lot of people.
I say that with love, everybody listening, but that guy's a piece of shit.
Well, that's like Greg Miller's a piece of shit, but I love that dude to death. Like, I don't consume any of his content anymore because he blew up and got really popular and kind of like.
Really? Oh, well, good for him.
Like, yeah, good for him. Like, he broke off from IGN. They started Kind of Funny, and Kind of Funny blew up, and it's like that's what they do now. And I don't like that brand of, like, I've matured and I don't like his brand of humor anymore.
There you go.
And they're doing a lot of the same shit we're doing here on this podcast with their podcast. So it's like, oh, they're talking about Nioh, or they're talking about, hey, this is a video game podcast, but we're going to talk about beards and taking care of your skin.
Yeah.
But back to our original point was, like, I use this face mask, and it makes me, it's like a gray, silverish face mask, and it makes me look like a robot. Like, Dawn puts it around her entire face. I can't do that because of the beard. But she looks like the Robin Williams in Bicentennial Man. Because of the damn face mask tweet with the Confederate flag, I won't even take a picture of Dawn, even though it cracks me up to no end. The way that she looks when she puts it on. I won't take a picture of her and post it on Facebook because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the blackface, white person, blackface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. It's getting harder and harder. Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to be these days with how easy it is to get fire storming down on you on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
What's sad is, like, I remember when, like, I'm gonna sound really old here. I remember when the internet was a place where you kind of just, like, you said whatever the fuck you wanted to, and sometimes you'd piss people off, and sometimes you wouldn't, and you had, like, a group of people, and it felt a little bit more community-ish. And now it just feels like there's so many people online just trolling to find, like, the next big thing that offends somebody somewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of split in both directions, right? You've got certain social media where you literally have to tiptoe in some ways not to offend people, and for the most part, I feel like I'm fine doing that, although sometimes it's a little weird. And then obviously you've got other people now on the other end of things that are literally just trying to offend people, even if that means they become neo-Nazis and take a joke a little too far, because that's just how they are. It's strange.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how to respond.
Like, even this podcast, I've toned down a lot of the jokes and stuff that I used to make. Like, Peter Molyneux used to show up on the podcast. I don't want to offend anybody by doing my Peter Molyneux joke. We had an email come in when they were like, "Why are you saying that you're locking white people in your room under your bed and throwing sandwiches at them?"
Wait, what?
And I was like,
I'm sorry, but that's fucking hysterical.
It's a fucking joke. I'm a white dude. It's Peter Molyneux. He's someone.
It was a comedy character that Chris did on a couple podcasts because, well, Peter Molyneux is a huge joke, and it was funny to have this hyper exaggerated version of him come out and say random bullshit about the gaming industry that was just like totally off kilter, and it was funny for a while. But he hasn't been on it's been at least 2 years now, I think, since
he showed up. He showed up once. He showed up with No Man's Sky. That's right. Because he's actually the mind behind No Man's Sky. He was their presser guy. He was the one that told that guy to say all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I do remember that joke. It's
Because
coming back.
he comes out because the thing with Peter Molyneux and the reason that like we kind of killed him, we've kind of killed the character off, because if
We literally killed Peter Molyneux. Everybody.
yeah, his
No,
skeleton's under my bed. I
don't.
forgot to throw
Yeah,
sandwiches
no,
at him.
don't, don't be offended. Uh,
But no, like it was getting old, and it was kind of like I was
yeah,
done doing it, and then we tossed around the idea of maybe bringing like David Cage in and
or Jeff
Jeff
Keighley,
like
who
Jeff
we
like
hate to no end.
that's the one thing. Like I would love to bring Jeff Keighley in, especially when we're talking about reviews. But I'm really afraid of that dude because he has so much clout in the gaming industry, and I don't want to be blackballed by like the 3 developers that talk to us.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
the last thing I want to do is like, be like, I'm the king of Doritos, Jeff Keighley here to save the day, and have him be like, yo, that tiny podcast with 500 subscribers, cut them off. Like, because he's Jeff Keighley, and he eats a bag of Doritos, drinks a bottle of Mountain Dew, and shits on people. That's what he does.
That is what he does.
You know,
Peter Molyneux, or well, not Peter Molyneux, him too, but yeah,
but like
yeah,
I've toned down a lot of like the shit that I used to say. Like I used to be a little crazier, and very much on this podcast we are ourselves, but okay, a little bit behind the curtain. We all play a little bit more exaggerated versions of ourselves on the podcast.
yeah, a little
But
bit.
like I'm nowhere near as rambunctious, and I'm not very outgoing in real in real life. But like Hollowblade normally isn't as salty. He got really salty this past week, but normally he's not super
That
salty.
was that was interesting. We need to talk about that at some point off camera. Anyway,
Um,
Hall
and,
is a good guy.
and like Caleb isn't the way that he's. You come off as being very pretentious on the cast sometimes, and you're not like that at all in real life.
Yeah, I think I'm a lot more cautious in real life, just about saying anything in general. A little more reserved, I'd say. I guess I never really thought about that too much, but yeah, that makes sense.
Like it's one of those things where it's like we all play kind of a cartoon version of ourselves on this podcast, and it's a fun thing to do, and there's a lot of people that take it like really serious these days. Like there are people online like that are much more successful than we are that get shit for characters that they have been playing forever.
Yeah, and you've got people like you. I mean, we're coming full circle. You've got people like Pewdiepie who make some jokes that are kind of off color and maybe a little too far, but you've got literal alt-right people rallying around them for that and not necessarily realizing that it's a joke, which is a big problem.
It's one of those things, and I thank everybody that's out there that listens to our podcast. Like I appreciate every single person that comes to our chat. I appreciate every single person that comes and listens, that downloads the podcast, that sends us an email, that takes the time to even liking a status on Facebook. Like that kind of stuff is awesome. And we have like some of our super fans that have been with us from the beginning. We have some newer super fans, like Leo's a new super fan. John is our super fan. There's a reason that he's like our king of moderators. There's just like, and it means a lot to me for those people that come and have stuck by us. And then there's those people that pick up the podcast, they hear one off color thing, and then they send an email that is like, hey, I listened to one of your podcasts and it was shit, and you need to fucking die, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, the internet, everyone. It's become a strange beast.
But at the same time, like we've been doing this for a really long time, and we do our listener specials every once in a while, and Hollow really wants me to pull out a lot of the pull and read a lot of the troll emails. My problem with a lot of the troll emails are that a lot of it has racial things in it.
Ooh, okay.
That I don't want to feed the trolls. You know what I mean? I don't want to give them the satisfaction of like, oh well, you crossed our mind for more than 1 second. Like, I click and I read every email, and I don't respond to any email because I respond on the show. So it's one of those things where, like, I don't want to, like, I'll read the short ones that are like, you guys fucking suck, I hope you die in hell, and it's like, oh, fuck your mothers, and that kind of stuff. Like, I'll read those because it's like, it's 12-year-old kid emails. But I'm not gonna read the one that calls us a bunch of N-words, or refers to Hollowblade as the rice-eating Canuck. I'm not gonna.
What?
I'm not gonna read those. I'm not gonna read the one that refers to both you and Hollowblade as I'm not gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it. But it has the word wet and then the thing that's behind you. I'm not gonna read those. I refuse to, and they infuriate me. But you kind of just gotta let it roll. You just gotta fucking let it roll. Or the people that get offended by everything, you just fucking let it roll. Our show's not for everybody.
It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't necessarily be.
It
shouldn't be for my mom.
No, it's not for my mom listens to the show, but it's not for her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
My mom listens to the show, but that's just because... And she never listened to the show, by the way, until she met you in Hollowblade. And she likes you and Hollow very much, so she listens to the show to support us, basically.
That's sweet.
So, hi, Mom.
Hi, Chris's mom.
But, I don't know. This turned into a weird episode.
This turned into an interesting episode. But, I mean, it's an interesting time. Like I said, so somebody mentioned at some point, this was really surprising to me because it's not something that I've experienced at all on the game sites that I go to. Someone was saying that the gaming community was split a lot. It was split pretty hard down the middle over the whole Trump-Hillary election thing, which most of the game sites I go on don't say anything about politics, and that's kind of their thing. Like, they want to talk about games, and that's what people go on there to talk about. But people were saying that it's too late for something like PewDiePie to pull gamers into politics because it's already happened, but I don't really see that.
How many gaming Facebook groups are you in?
I think I'm part of 2. One of them is the Super Best Friends fan group, which I'm part of because it's people who have been watching them since the beginning, which I have. I don't really comment or post or anything. I'm just part of it. And I think one other, the Wii game thing. But I've seen a couple arguments here and there, but it's not something that's like, well, maybe I just don't look at those like groups enough. Why have you?
I'm in like 12 Facebook gaming groups. Some I post and some I don't. But like the Podcast Beyond group exploded with the political bullshit to the point where like the mods had to come in and be like, listen, no more political bullshit. This is a video game thing.
Wow.
And people were so like, you could tell the people that were like super split. And I've made a lot of friends well, not a lot, but I've met a good amount of people from these from these groups. I've a buddy that I started listening to his podcast because he was like, oh, you have a podcast, we have a podcast, why don't you listen to the podcast? And that was Bombad Radio, which you guys should listen to. They're fucking awesome. They have like really awesome people on. They had the guy that wrote Knights of the Old Republic and Jade Empire on not that long ago.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay, I actually might want to listen to that. That's pretty cool.
And he's listened to our cast. and has been like, the one thing that we get from everybody that fucking gives us a chance is, you guys gel really well. Your podcast sounds awesome. And I'm not trying to like beat my own dick here or beat our own dick here. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is that the people that do listen to our cast are like, how are you guys not bigger? Why do you only have 500 subscribers? Why are you guys? And it's kind of like, well, we don't do any promotion.
Yeah, we kind of just like, this is the one thing we do a week for gaming, and there's not a lot of promotion involved. It's just, yeah.
Like, I'm part of the Geeky Antics Network. We're part of the gang, and every once in a while, like, a fire gets lit under my ass, and I go and I do some shit with them. Especially with Yogi, because Yogi needs some help every now and then. But that's like, that's the most. That's the most. That's the most. The most. What the fuck was I saying? That's the most promotion that I do for our cast or anybody else's. Like, I promote Geeky Antics and Horseplay more than I promote anything else, and that's because I promote Geeky Antics and Horseplay at the end of every episode of the podcast. Like, every episode of the podcast, I go ahead and I promote them. And there's a lot of changes coming to Geeky Antics. I think that you guys should, if you're interested in the Gaming Death podcast and what's going on behind the scenes with our network, you guys should go over to geekyantics.net, read some of that stuff, a little promotion there. But we don't promote. I don't share that we're live. I don't share our podcast link out. I'm not a Reddit guy. I don't post our link everywhere under the sun. I don't boost our Facebook post because, in all honesty, like, as much as I would love to have the audience, I really would. I would love to have the audience. There are some weeks like last night where we just didn't feel like doing it, and because like we weren't up for it, we knew that it wasn't going to be a good show if we went on. There are some weeks that it's like that, and if you have 2,000, 500,000 subscribers, that's, like, I feel bad letting 500 people down, let alone 500,000 people down.
Yeah, I can see that.
And like, we get 1,000 emails now. I don't want to see what our inbox would look like with, triple the amount of subscribers we have.
That's fair.
It's just one of those things where, like, I would love to have the audience, but at the same time, I'm kind of scared of ever hitting it big. Because this is all we do. Like, Game of Death started as, like, an article website, and then the podcast was the side thing, and then the podcast slowly became the big thing because that's what people wanted. People wanted to consume audio content from us. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
This has been a weird fucking episode. We've been all over the place.
It's just a discussion of modern media and how it works and all that. It's yeah. It's I feel like it's warranted.
This is totally, by the way, if this is your first episode, this isn't normally how it goes, because when Hollowblade's here, we don't talk about this shit because he finds it very boring. So a lot of times we don't talk about the media that we're in, or content creators as a whole, or any of that shit, because Hollow finds it very boring.
Yeah, he does.
Normally we do, like, we have a main topic, kind of like we did Nioh tonight.
Yeah, and talk about games and run through... Normally we run through news and shit, but the Pewdiepie's thing is what's kind of... There's a lot of other news going on, too, actually. It's a very news-tastic week, but that's just kind of what took precedence because of what it is.
I know that we've been going for longer than we normally do now. Do you have time to stick around for a little bit more?
I could stay around for another 10-15 minutes.
Oh, I just want to... There's two things that I kind of want to talk about.
Okay.
The first big thing that a lot of people are up in arms about this week, that I think that we have to talk about this week, is the Breath of the Wild Season Pass.
Yeah, we can talk about that pretty quick. Yeah, yeah.
Because
What do
it
you?
has split the gaming community straight down the middle.
Yeah, it kind of has actually. It's interesting. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but apparently it is.
So basically, for anybody that doesn't know, uh, Nintendo has come out and said, "Hey, Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's a $20, I think it's $20, season pass that's coming out with Breath of the Wild that you can purchase, and it's going to have more content. Is basically more single player content. It's not gonna like they're not doing a God Hand where like you need to buy the DLC to finish the story or anything. It's just more content." And the internet exploded with people being like, "Hey, fuck DLC and fuck season passes. It's the worst thing to ever happen to video games."
Yeah, they kind of did. They kind of did.
And then you had the other group, which I will admit that I'm behind this other group that's like, yo guys, season passes are a good thing. DLC is a good thing for games. And it's something that allows game creators to give us more content, without us having to spend another $60 on another game. And people are like, "Oh, back in the old days, you bought a $30 expansion pack, like every 6 months, and that was a much better way to do it rather than this piecemeal DLC, blah 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 blah." And I went off on somebody in one of the gaming groups that I had that was posting about this, and I was like, they were like, "Hey, do you remember when games didn't have DLC and they released and they weren't broken and all this?" And I had to come back and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I remember spending $90 on Super Nintendo games." And I remember buying games that were broken at release, and because there was no patches or anything, that game stayed broken forever. And I remember,
Ugh.
I remember buying a game and beating the game in like 30 minutes and being like, oh, I just spent $80 on this game that took me 30 minutes to beat. Thank you very much, old old stuff. And don't get me wrong, there are companies out there that do really shady stuff with DLC.
Yeah, yeah, but it's. I mean, there's ups and downs to what we have now in the gaming community.
Like
Definitely.
anybody that wants to bitch about DLC and how terrible it is, I point to a few games. I point to like The Witcher 3, which is like the end all be all for DLC.
Oh yeah, that's bar none my favorite expansion of any game.
I point to like the Borderlands DLC stuff, like both Borderlands 1 and 2.
Yeah, all good.
I point to that stuff. I point to like even the Dark Souls and Bloodborne stuff. I'm like, look, it's more like when they do more story content is the stuff that I really like, because what a lot of people don't realize are a lot of these companies aren't like, oh, we're gonna rip this content off this disc and then we'll release it later on for more money.
Some have done that, but it is not the norm.
What happened?
Some have done that, but it's not the norm.
No, it is not the norm. DLC and stuff happens when a game is done, it's gone gold. You have certain people that are still working on bug fixes, which is why you have day one patches, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you have another team that's still employed, so it's good for the studio because they're still keeping that team together to work on the DLC. And they work on the DLC, and then they release it, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's really fucking stupid if you pre-order a season pass. I think that's dumb as shit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I think like the fact that a season pass comes out and a game comes out and they show you like, hey, this is what's in our season pass. You're going to get this content, this content, this content. You buy it together, you save yourself $10. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I take a pretty similar tact with it. So I honestly don't care about it either way. It's like if you like the game, you got a season pass you can buy. You have all the DLC. It's there. It's fine. Same thing with Nintendo doing it. Like, I understand that people were upset about it in the first place just because Nintendo has held out for so long against those kind of practices, but it's the times we live in. It's fine. It's not a thing that bothers me a lot, especially because one of the DLCs sounds like some pretty substantial content that sounds pretty cool. it's a little iffy that one of their DLCs is just a hard mode that maybe should have been in the game, but I mean, if it gets the game out faster, sure. I don't know. It's not that big a deal to me one way or the other. I haven't bought any season passes myself. No, actually, that's not true. I bought it for the first. I bought it for the first Injustice, which I thought would be good because I really liked that game. It turned out to not be good just because the game didn't turn out to be as big as I'd hoped with people, but it is what it is. You don't have to buy it. It's not something to get mad about. It's another option if you really like the game. Like, it's no reason to freak out about. I don't know. It's a much ado about nothing in my mind, essentially.
Right.
And that's my take.
Right. Stapleface0 in the chat says, or you can just wait for the Game of the Year version.
There you go. That's a perfectly valid option. Like, nobody's making you buy these things, even if they're giving you the option. And admittedly, there are companies that do some shady things with their season pass and whatnot, but it's not the norm. And maybe just don't support those companies in the first place, depending on the game. I mean,
like, I will never buy a Street Fighter season pass.
That is, that's perfectly valid. Yeah.
You know, the thing that I wanted to mention, because a lot of people are like, oh, Nintendo was holding out for so long, not doing the season pass shit. There was DLC for Smash Brothers.
Yeah, there was actually. There was DLC. There was a lot. There's a fuck ton of characters. There's like half the game is DLC characters, from what I remember.
You know, it's like the Cloud is like a DLC character, and
holy shit, Cloud's in a fucking Smash Brothers game, guys. Do you realize how amazing that is to the 12-year-old me who played the first Smash Brothers fucking game? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know, right?
Jesus fucking Christ.
Or Hyrule Warriors also had a bunch of DLC. I bought that season pass, by the way. That's the season pass I did buy. Hyrule Warriors.
That's fine.
Because I wanted the Wind Waker content. And it was interesting. Like, I buy a lot of season passes for games that I really like that I usually wait for the first or second piece of the DLC to come out and see how it reviews. Like, Final Fantasy 15 has a season pass.
Yeah, which I like Final Fantasy 15, but I don't know enough about their DLC to buy it, so I'm holding off, which is my choice. That's the thing.
Like, Final Fantasy 15... I love to death. I love Final Fantasy 15 to death. We all know that. We talked about this game incessantly. Well, me and Hollow did because Caleb's like 20 minutes into that game. And I want more content, but at the same time, I don't know enough about the DLC to be like, yeah, I'm going to drop, the $30 on that DLC. I'll wait. I will wait until the first or second piece come out, and then I'll be like, oh, Lowline Gaming, time for me to play this. Like, yeah. There's Ubisoft. Ubisoft, I will never buy a season pass from Ubisoft ever.
That's a good call.
Their DLC is notoriously bad. Like, I bought this. I bought the what the fuck was the Manhattan game?
Division.
Division. I bought the Division season pass. And the content, the first piece content was okay, and then it was like, here's more PvP content, and I was like, this sucks. Like, it sucked big donkey balls, and I was really upset that I spent the money on the season pass. Yeah.
I'm just so wary about DLC just because, not DLC, but season passes. Just because usually when the game comes out at first, even if I do really like it, we still don't always know what's going to be in the deal. Just usually hold off just in case. And there are maybe quite a few examples where I probably should have bought it just because I ended up loving the game and then the DLC was kind of cool too, but that's a few bucks. So just do your thing, guys. Just be careful with the people you do choose to buy season passes from. You don't have to buy them if you don't like them. In theory, it's still up to you. It's still very much your choice. They're not taking anything away from you in this way. They are giving you another option. Don't be salty.
I'm gonna just put this out there. It's the last I'm gonna say on this thing. Everybody that's listened to this podcast for a while or knows me knows how much of a Zelda fan I am. Okay. fucking tattoo of the Triforce on my arm.
Yep.
How much of a Zelda fan I am. I am not pre-ordering the season pass for Zelda. I'm not. I'm not going to buy it until after the first piece comes out.
Okay.
Because my thing is, my thing with season passes are when you don't know what all the content is, and you only want one piece of the content, then you spend the $50 and get that one piece of content rather than the $30 and 5 pieces of content. Because you're not going to touch the other 4 pieces of content. It's like the Division. I would have been much happier buying just the one piece of DLC rather than buying the entire season pass. So with Zelda, like, I know that I'm not going to be interested in hard mode.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to anybody that's like, oh, if you don't play on hard, you're not a true gamer. Fuck you. I played through and pretty much beat Bloodborne. I'm playing through Nioh now, so fuck you. Second of all, it's not something I'm gonna want. Like, my Zelda games are, I play through a Zelda game once when it first comes out, and I play through it and I beat it and I give people my takes on it here on the podcast or whatever, and then it goes away for a little while because you can't. Zelda's not a game that you can play over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. They're an experience. They're lovely. So it's just kind of one of those things where I will not pre-order the season pass because if one of the pieces is hard mode and something else is just new weapons, I'm not in. All I want is the story content there.
That's story. The cookie crumbles.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Yes. Yes. That is a Bruce Almighty joke for all you youngins out there.
Also, was that Dan Rather who used to say that? It's a newscaster joke. That was also on Bruce Almighty.
Did Dan Rather actually say that? I thought
it was somebody's. It was actually somebody's quote. I can't remember whether it was him or Tom Brokaw or one of those old guys. But it was an old newscaster's thing he said at the end of, like how Ron Burgundy's thing is, "You stay classy, San Diego." It's just a little sign-off joke. Anyway. Oh, he's looking that up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, tell your friends about us, I suppose. Just, don't always... you know what? Honestly, there are people who are really big and have really big podcasts who don't do them regularly. So I feel like we might still have an opportunity there. Tell your friends about us.
By the way.
It's who?
Cronkite.
Ah, Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. No, you were doing good plugging. Keep plugging.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, we do them once a week. Usually, occasionally things happen. We are people with lives. This isn't necessarily our livelihood as much as we like to do it. So tell your friends about us. Feel free to keep listening. Send emails. It's because we have so many other things going on in our lives. It's hard to do email episodes because they take a lot of advanced prep, but we do read through them eventually. Unless you're just trolling, in which case, why the hell would we, care? But if you ask questions or you have comments and stuff like that, feel free to send them. We read all of them, respond to all of them on the podcast. Love talking with fans. Tell us what you think about the Pewdiepie thing. Yeah, come listen live if we happen to be live. Tell us what you think about the things we talk about, season passes, Pewdiepie. Let us know your thoughts. Engage with us.
What's the email address, Caleb?
Is that gamingdeath@gmail.com?
No. What are we doing right now?
No.
We're doing a podcast?
gamingdeathpodcast@gmail.com.
It's just podcast@gamingdeath.com.
Podcast@gamingdeath.com.
Yes, that is our podcast. That is our email address.
There we go.
And you can listen live Thursdays at 9:30. What's our Twitch address? Do you know this?
That is twitch.com/gamingdeath.
Twitch.tv/gamingdeath.
Twitch.tv. Oh, jeez. Oh, man,
Yeah.
I'm rusty. Hollow and I usually don't pay attention at this point. We're usually playing Diablo and Dark Souls by now.
Yeah,
but
make sure you guys go over and check out geekyantics.net for more podcasts just like this one. Listen to Horseplay Live. Lots of good stuff happening over there. Also, guys, if you're listening to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Google Play, please hit that like button. Leave us a review. It gets us a little bit higher in the rankings, and more people will find us. And like Caleb said, tell your friends about us. Because the more people that listen, the more stuff that we have to talk about, and the more people that get to us. And I'd like to cover some other things before other people, and it's hard to do when nobody knows we exist.
This is true.
But that's gonna do it for tonight. I'm Chris.
Caleb, and Hollow's not there.
And there is no Dawn.
No, because, yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
I guess.
That was weird, but that was good. Hey, chat, StapleFace0, thank you very much for checking us out. Rob, hit me up off air someplace, and I will get back to you about what you asked about.
What did he ask? I guess you can tell me after.
Yeah, it's stuff I want to talk about off air. But thank you guys very much, chat, for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys next week, Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/gamingdeath. Thanks, guys.